Some bad news for PC gamers. The Nvidia RTX 4090 is out, but people are scalping them left and right. We weren't sure this was going to happen. You can expect it, of course, but the recent GPU market has been really soft. Nobody's been able to sell any GPU recently. Prices have gone down a considerable amount, but the 4090, even though it's really expensive, look at these eBay listings. Look at the amount that have sold. Almost $1 million during the last few days only have sold. Look at this. This top seller here, that at least that I could see from, eBay sort of scalped 4090s, he sold 26 of the Zotac 4090s. That's certainly pretty incredible. The pricing that we're seeing here, the average is around $2,500. Now, we know that the 4090 is already expensive at $1,599. And one thing to keep in mind, this generation, most of the third-party AIBs, everything that's not the Nvidia Founders Edition, we're talking about, Asus, we're talking about MSI, Gigabyte, Zotac, all of them are really close to the MSRP. Most models are like $1,699, $1,799, with a few exceptions like the Asus Strix, which is $1,999. Most are very close to that original $1,599. So as we see here, $2,500 is way off what any 4090 should cost. And even though it's so expensive, you can see the sell-through rate here is around 38% of listings. So we can deduct some that are possibly fraudulent or some that are just scams. We can assume that a lot of people are buying these for over the price. So what's going on here? What happened? Wasn't the GPU market supposed to be fixed and better? Didn't Nvidia have massive amounts of inventory? Isn't crypto mining dead? Wasn't that a big motivator? Well, it seems that scalping and reselling of GPUs is still here. You got to remember one thing. We don't know how long this is going to last. The GPU just came out. A lot of this initial wave of people buying at retail could be resellers, and that's keeping everything sort of out of stock, forcing people to have to go online and buy them. Here is actually a good point. The 4090 came out in stores in America in Micro Center. Not everybody has a Micro Center, and you're going to see why this is good and bad at the same time. The people that do, if you lined up, sometimes there were 100 people lined up. Most people were able to get a 4090 on launch day. I was there myself, and even though there was a lot of people, everybody that I saw got a 4090. Even throughout the day, at the end of the day, they still had a couple left. Other surrounding stores not too far away still had some 4090s even into the next day. A few sporadic stores had maybe a couple left, into the next day after launch. So it's not like it completely sold out of every single possible place, like maybe the 3090 did or the 3080 when they came out, but it definitely had a pretty good showing. So these people live near micro centers, so they can actually go and buy them. What about the people that don't live near a micro center and can't get their GPU at MSRP? Well, most likely they would have to go to Newegg or maybe Best Buy, were some of the places that people were selling GPUs. And we know that those places did sell out really fast. It seems like the online places sold out even faster than the physical stores like Micro Center. So that presents a problem. If somebody couldn't have gotten it on Newegg because it sold out in 10 minutes and they don't live locally to a micro center where they could have gone in person and gotten, what's the only other solution that this person is going to have? I'm going to tell you what that is after we hear a word from our sponsor. Priced pretty good is a Windows CD key. Today's video sponsor is going to be VIP-CDKdeals.com. Very simple process. You can get a Windows 10 Pro CD key and remember to use code CC20 for a nice discount. And now back to the video. So if that person has no micro center, they're going to have to go Indeed and go online, and if they really want a 4090, they're going to have to pay a scalper. Maybe the scalper is somebody who went to one of the micro centers. Many of the GPUs you see on eBay and locally on Facebook Marketplace are obviously from Micro Center. Some even leave the Micro Center sticker on there so you know that it was, people who waited in line to get the GPU to resell it. We don't know exactly how many, but judging by the amount of GPUs that immediately showed up and the physical box showed up, nobody could have gotten it shipped fast enough. We can assume that a lot of people went to a physical store and then put the card up for sale at a considerable markup, often closer to $2,500 as was the average. So you can tell by, all the models Micro Center has were things that are up at Facebook Marketplace, up on eBay. Most of them, a lot of them actually do have the little Micro Center sticker like I mentioned. So it's pretty obvious. If you got something from Newegg, you're probably only getting it like today or a few days after. And these cards have been up on eBay and Facebook Marketplace with a picture of the actual actual box for several days now since the actual launch. So even when I was at Micro Center with some friends, we looked up the GPUs online, and even within an hour of them coming out physically, we were able to see people reselling them already online. So definitely a lot of demand in terms of resellers, but is there going to be demand in terms of people buying it at these prices like we saw the last few years? So if somebody doesn't have a local store or they weren't able to get it online, that's really their only option, is to go online and buy it from one of these people that were able to buy it. So that's certainly not a very fortunate situation, but we have to analyze a few things before we come to any rash conclusions. Yes, this does kind of look like what's been happening there in the last few years, but a couple of things are different. Ethereum is no longer here, and that's going to be a lot less people buying these 4090s for crypto mining. I doubt almost any person bought it, aside from maybe a few YouTubers or people that want to test it. Many miners that are still left, they're probably buying more efficient used GPUs that are much cheaper now on the used market, since return on investment really matters, and the 4090 is not really terribly efficient at all. It's a very powerful GPU for gaming, so that market we can basically cancel out. Of course, gamers definitely want this GPU, high-end enthusiasts, people that have been holding back perhaps from the last generation, or even people that want to upgrade already. That's very common because the reviews of this GPU were pretty stellar. This GPU certainly got a lot of good press. People said how powerful it is. It is a fairly significant uplift from past generations, so you can see why people would get it. It is cheaper than the 3090 Ti was, and it's only $100 more than the 3090, so you can definitely make a case that the product itself is good, which is true, but a lot of these people that are buying are resellers, taking advantage of the fact that people maybe weren't able to get it online or get it in the store themselves. We're going to have to see if the people who couldn't get it are going to be willing to pay these, $2,000 plus, $2,500 plus prices that the scalpers are asking. We don't know if that's going to be true going forward. Maybe a couple people in the beginning that want to be first adopters and couldn't get the GPU will do that. We're going to have to see within the next 2 or 3 weeks. A couple of things we have to see. First, is Nvidia going to restock these regularly? When we did see a significant amount of stock day one, I must say, in terms of the local stores. Online, it did sell pretty quickly. Maybe it took 10-15 minutes for most places to sell out. But like I said, local stores had them for at least the first full day in many cases. Maybe you couldn't get the GPU you wanted exactly. Maybe it was going to be something like a Gigabyte or Zotac or something like that that you had to buy instead of an Asus Strix, for example, that a lot of people seem to go for. But that's going to be sort of an exception. Stocks still seem to be decent if you lined up and were able to get to a local store. We're going to see if the same holds true for online. Is it going to be restocked? Is it Nvidia really produced enough for the demand? Are they going to artificially hold back just to make it seem like there's still demand? There's definitely a lot of factors at play here. Here is one theory. Let's say if the demand really isn't all that great, especially on the secondhand market from the scalpers, we're going to see a lot of these GPUs being returned. That's going to be a really big problem. I think I'm going to talk about this in a separate video. GPU returns, I mean, they can buy it at no risk. If nobody buys it within whatever 2 weeks or a month, if it's still closed, they can go right back to the stores and return them for their money back. If somebody does buy them for, let's say, $900 over what they paid, they have no risk and a huge amount of profit. So that's going to be something that we should probably look at. Is it a policy change? Like, let's say if you buy a GPU, maybe you could only exchange it for another GPU or something like that if you buy it in a store. That may keep some of these people from buying it, and in case they don't sell it, if the market is softer, then that risk is going to be on them. They'll have to lose the money or keep the GPU. So that's going to be something to take a look at. That's definitely something that's broken in the system. You're letting them buy a GPU at no risk, and they're basically hedging a bet if the market is going to buy it at an inflated price, or if, like the 3090 Ti and the GPUs that came before, the price may quickly actually start to come down. Overall, this first week, it's kind of like a mixed reaction, I would say. It's not looking too good in terms of everybody, including Europe and everywhere in America. For the people that were near Micro Center, they certainly probably got lucky and were able to get a GPU. But for everyone else, even when you look now, it's hard to find anything in stock. Even the stores have sold out of them by now. They may have 1 or 2 sporadically, but we'll see if next week they get a big shipment in terms of online orders as well as in stores to see if there's a second big wave. Maybe then they'll stay in stock. You can expect some initial, high volume buying from not only the gamers, but also I guess from the resellers trying to, hedge their bets and see what's going to happen. So we're going to have to see during the second and third week what happens. During the 3080 launch and 3090 launch, the trend never changed. It was basically month after month, week after week of it just being sold out every time it hit the store shelves. That's how we're going to be able to notice a difference. If during the next, let's say, month, every time the 4090 hits the shelves, it's sold out instantly, then you could sort of predict that it may actually be like this for the next several months, maybe even up to a year. But if a lot of models start to stay in stock, like we saw recently with the 3090 Ti when nobody was buying them, then we can expect that, sure, everything's different. This was just the initial sort of buying frenzy, and everything's going to work itself out, and the market will go back to normal. So if you haven't gotten a GPU during the first day at MSRP, I would say don't buy one from a scalper. Wait, the market could normalize. It's not going to get any worse probably. The prices are already pretty crazy with an average of $2,500 to even $3,000 for some models. So I would definitely say it's probably better to wait until perhaps even the 4080 comes out so there are more options on the market. And maybe by then the craze over the 4090 will have dropped down a bit. But definitely a mixed reaction this week. It's a good launch for some, but still we have the scalpers coming back and a tough market. If you want to buy a GPU, it's still not easy and in stock unless you want to go for like an RTX 3000, which could be Nvidia's strategy here. Maybe they want to push you to a last generation GPU, which certainly are in stock, pretty plentiful, and very easy to find at much cheaper prices than the 4090. That could be sort of a second choice for a lot of people, which would play into Nvidia's plan to eventually get rid of all the stock that they have. All right, guys, so remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.